And hello and welcome into Coach's Corner. I am your host, Lucas Kochevar, as always, and we are back in the bedroom, studio, whatever you want to call it. And we have some stuff to talk about. We have the one thought of the week. Basically, I give my thoughts on one NFL idea and one college football idea. And we'll start off with the NFL one because, NFL, college, then we'll do all the picks. We'll talk about me getting slaughtered this weekend, got absolutely cleaned out, not my finest performance, but that's okay. We're on to big and better things. We're on to a better college football week. We're on to better picks. The whole thing's going to be better. But either way, first, my one thought with the NFL, there was a good bit that happened this week, and we'll talk about it when we kind of preview some of last week's games, or next week's games. The Denver Broncos are still exactly the same team that we thought they were. Denver Broncos came out against the Washington Commanders, jumped on them really quick, 21-3. Washington Commanders, respectfully, they're not a serious team. They're 2-0, but after playing the Cardinals and the Broncos. They are 2-0, and they should be 1-1 because the Broncos flat out blew this game. You're up 21-3, and trust me, I know about 20-something point leads to 3. You should be able to hold that lead. You should be able to score another touchdown. You should be able to form some defensive stops. You should be able to make, the necessary plays in order to win this game. A must-win, I would say, after losing Week 1 to the Raiders. But not only do you lose this game, you lose it in a fashion where there's really no redeemable qualities about this loss. It's not like you were down 21-3 and you made this comeback and you lost at the end on a tough pass interference in the end zone. No, you were up 21-3, blew that entire lead, just out the window, kicked it out the window, let Sam Howell, who has had now 3 starts under his belt, you let him come in and basically punk you guys. Punk Russell Wilson, the guy you just paid over $200 million. Punk Sean Payton, who you just traded draft capital for. And I don't know where you go from here because you're also in a division that has Patrick Mahomes. That's super tough already. You're in a division that has a team that has beat you already in the Raiders, and the Raiders got destroyed by the Bills. So, kind of tells you how they are. And you also have, a Chargers team who's 0-2, and we'll get to them later. Chargers team that has Justin Herbert, who also just got his big deal. While you're sitting there with your veteran quarterback who should be way better than he is, and your veteran coach who, let's talk about it, is a much just skinnier Mike McCarthy with 1 Super Bowl win under his belt and a lot of regular season wins with a very little playoff success. I don't know. It's something we have to talk about with how overrated that this team has been now the past 2 seasons. We came into last offseason, they get Russell Wilson, after failing to try and get Aaron Rodgers. Nathaniel Hackett turns out to be maybe one of the worst hires in NFL coaching history. I won't say the worst because Urban Meyer exists, but Nathaniel Hackett doesn't last the season, his first season. Russell Wilson, awful year, career low year in all metrics. Comes back, supposed to be this new energy, this new Broncos team. Your defense was good last year. They were pretty good. They should come back and also be good again. You get Cortland Sutton back for the whole year, hopefully coming in healthy. Jerry Jeudy just comes back this week from his injury in the offseason. Javonte Williams is healthy. Like, a team that should be battling for playoff contention at least, wild card contention at least, now finds himself 0-2, one of the harder positions, one of the harder records to try and reach the playoffs in. I won't lie to you, the AFC is not as good as I think that we kind of projected it to be. Obviously now Aaron Rodgers getting hurt ruins the Jets' chances. The Bills don't look as good as we thought. The Chiefs obviously look a little bit worse than we thought. And it's just, I think the whole AFC North looks worse than we thought. And, the Ravens are good, but those other 3 teams, So I feel like it's even more of a wide-open AFC now for the Broncos to try and do something competent. Yet they find themselves now in a position where they're going to have to, pick up the pace. They're going to have to figure out this offense. It's going to have to be, I don't know if an offense that solely relies on running the ball and throwing short passes because, frankly, you paid Russell Wilson a ton of money to do more than just that. It's now looking like a team that sold a lot of draft capital now and could have had 2 years worth of top 5 picks and could have gotten a quarterback for the future instead of, a quarterback in his mid-30s who runs into sacks and can hardly really, I don't know, last a season yet, but can hardly put together a efficient, how long is it football? 60 minutes. Can put together a 60-minute football game. He can hardly do that. And like I said, 2 second-half blown leads now by these Broncos to the Raiders and the Commanders. 2 very winnable games. I think the New York Giants of last year would have destroyed both of these teams, and we would have been, good job Giants. But instead, you have the Broncos this season, just losing these games, and I don't think we're making as big of a deal as this as we should be. And the Broncos, I would say, are a winning organization from the perspective that the past 10 years, they've been rather good. For some of them. I say that, but, basically, Peyton Manning, brought them on an upswing. They went on a little bit of a downslope, and Russell Wilson was supposed to be this upswing again. They are not close to that level. I don't think they're close to a Super Bowl, and I would be shocked if they end up with a winning record or close to it. So, Broncos fans, I apologize. You're not riding. Broncos country, don't ride. So that's a tough thing to be, but that's what the team looks like right now. And so moving over to college, I also want to talk about a very sour note. Another orange team that failed to meet expectations, the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, traveling to Florida is a tough game. I'll give them that. But I think we found out pretty quickly that Joe Milton is not that guy. Joe Milton very much struggled in his start, can really only throw, one pitch, and that's his deep ball. And other than that, he can't really run this offense as much as I think Josh Heupel wants him to. He's not Hendon Hooker. Despite being an old man in college playing quarterback, he's not Hendon Hooker. They jumped out early, good game early on, but then Florida kind of just did what they wanted to the rest of that game, and I think we found out that Tennessee is really, really dependent on a quarterback that understands the system, can, run that offense well, and can run the field because, you can see it right now, just the confidence they don't have in Joe Milton. And, you can kind of tell how much the coaching staff believes in a quarterback, I think, based on the play calls. And even though they're trying some shots, they're not doing it nearly as much as they did with Hendon. They missed Jalen Hyatt desperately. They're just a team that's not put together to, be a playoff contender like many thought they would be. It's one of those, Tennessee was, basically kind of made that jump last year. They went from, bowl eligible to New Year's Six bowl eligible, and that's a big jump. And you want to continue that momentum, and they just don't have it this year. And I think losing players to the draft, losing Hendon Hooker, big loss there. I think they just didn't really have the tools in place to continue this run. Now, from what they had, going for them last year with maybe recruiting, they got a boost there because they were so electric, because they beat Alabama at home, showed that environment. Maybe they'll be good in the near future, but this season's version of Tennessee is not the team that I want to see do anything anytime soon. So, Tennessee Volunteer fans, they haven't won in Florida since 2003. That trend continues. Shout out you guys. So, with that being said, let's look back at this past week. 4-7. 4-7 on the picks that I made. We started off the day losing 5 in a row. I was crossing down my X's on my list. And did I miscount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, no. I thought I had 6 losses to start off the day. Anyway, 5 is a lot. I thought we were going towards a smooth 0-11 day, but we didn't. We rebounded well. We got 3 in a row, and then we lost 2 of our last 3 picks. That's okay. We're okay. So, basically, Memphis versus Navy, the under. Navy decided they learned how to pass the ball. Old Dominion's friskier than I gave them credit for. I bet on against them last year. They, proved me wrong in an outright win against Virginia, I think. I thought Wake Forest was better than that. They are not. Kansas State tried to go on the road, beat Mizzou. Shout out Mizzou. Big win for them against, not top ranked, but a ranked opponent on a 60-yard game winner by that chunky kicker. Shout out him. Monster. Alabama, yes, absolutely stink Alabama. He tried to run this different quarterback play with Tyler Buckner, Ty Simpson. Barely got out of USF with a win. That was very ugly. Should have just stayed with Milroe. And I don't know if I gave Milroe like a hard time last week, but I'm not a Milroe believer by any stretch of the imagination. But I thought that he should have gotten another week. Get right game against USF. This is where your quarterback builds that confidence, and he didn't really let him have that moment. And wrong decision. I mean, they've already jumped back to Milroe. They're playing Ole Miss this week, so we'll get to that game. I'm thinking of it, but Minnesota plus 7.5 against UNC. Maybe this is the UNC turning point. I bet against them, and they turned out to have a great game. Drake May threw a beautiful pass to his receiver. Minnesota blew it for me there. Then we had James Madison win outright against Troy. West Virginia win outright against Pitt. Pitt's very bad. TCU at Houston, the under. Of course that hit because Houston is very not good. Dana Holgerson, I'm sorry, buddy, but you might be out of here. Then Purdue did not handle business against Syracuse. Tulane handled business against Southern Miss. Shout out them. And Virginia Tech, I say Virginia Tech. Maybe Rutgers is a wagon because they beat up on Virginia Tech. So that's a 4-7 day. We flip the page. We're on to next week. We're going to have a better week. I promise. I know. We'll have a good time. So let's win our bets. And let's go through the games that I have picked out. I don't think there's any other crazy games. I mean, there are, but I think I picked most of the good games that we should get. So Florida State at Clemson. I have Florida State minus 2.5. I had to find it because it's first game on here, not on here. But Clemson, I'm just not a believer in Clemson this year. I don't buy it. I think their offense is just a little too vanilla, too plain for me. And normally it was vanilla before, with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, but those guys elevated that vanilla to, I don't know, vanilla with some chocolate swirl? I don't know, but either way, Cade Klubnik I don't think can win this game, frankly, just straight up that way. The fact that it's a close line makes me a little bit worried for Florida State, but even then, I think Jordan Travis is a good quarterback. I don't know how he's doing health-wise. Maybe that's bad research on my part, but I think Florida State's skill positions are just flat out better, and this Clemson team has not been the same since they lost their coordinators, both of them, from those championship days. So give me Florida State minus 2.5. Maryland minus 7.5 against Michigan State. Michigan State has started the process on firing Mel Tucker for a cause, a very funky, weird case that I don't really want to get into, but Michigan State got absolutely kicked in the face by Washington, and I can't imagine that they'll get up any better against Maryland. I think Maryland's a good team. I think Talia Tagovailoa, Tua's brother. Sorry, kid. Sorry to him, but Tua's brother is a really good quarterback. I actually do think he's pretty talented in his own right. Led Maryland to a big victory, I think, on Thursday or Friday, but I like Maryland to cover that 7.5. I think they'd probably blow out Michigan State. Next pick, Colorado, Oregon. I like the over 70.5. This is a big points game. Have those every now and then with the total's so high that I think there has to be something to it. So give me the over on this. No defense will be played at Autzen Stadium in Oregon. Bo Nix, Shedeur Sanders. It should be an electric show. Sad part is Travis Hunter is out after being hit pretty roughly in their win against Colorado State, but they still have a ton of talent over there at Colorado. I do believe in them to score points because Oregon's defense is terrible, but vice versa. I like that over there. Next game I have Wyoming minus 2.5. It's minus 3 on the screen here against App State. App State I think they're good, but I don't think they're at the same level that they normally are when it comes to they're a group of 5 team that could make some noise if they were a Power 5 team. No, I don't think that's this year's App State team. I think the quarterback issues are there. Wyoming, I think, has been impressive to start out the year. They gave Texas a little bit of trouble, but Texas figured it out. They beat Texas Tech outright, but yeah, I like them to cover the spread -3. I at home also. I think it's a good showing for Wyoming here to get the win. Next game I have Air Force -4.5. Shout out Air Force. Service Academy unders is normally a fun thing, but Air Force I think is the exception. I don't have the total on this. I have the Air Force -4.5. I don't think San Jose State is great. I think Air Force is a good team, like a good quality team, and can win this game by 7. Next game, Oregon State at Washington State. I have Wazoo +3. The fact this is at Wazoo makes it a lot more comfortable for me. Oregon State is a good team. Against spread 2-1, obviously on the screen there. Wazoo's also 2-1, but I just don't know if DJ Ugalele, gosh, struggling with names here. I don't know if DJ is as good as Cam Ward, and this is basically, I'm just going to base it on the quarterbacks here. I think Cam Ward for Wazoo is a really good college quarterback. I think he has Washington State moving in a positive direction. I like them to get the upset against Oregon State here. Next game on the agenda here, Ohio State at Notre Dame. This is one of the biggest games of the year, I think. We'll get a great game from this because Notre Dame last year was frisky, but they didn't have a quarterback, so it wasn't threatening against Ohio State. This year they have Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman has been terrific to start out the year, leading the Irish to 4-0, 3-1 against the spread. I like Notre Dame +3 here. I don't know. I mean, I think the Notre Dame defense will come to play because Marcus Freeman typically has had those guys, up to par ever since he, got over that speed bump beginning of last season. Defense is good. I like Sam Hartman better than I do Kyle McCord. It's one of those, I just don't believe in this Ohio State team yet. Now, this could be a very pivotal game in flipping me to think Ohio State could be one of those teams, but we have a group of teams that I think Ohio State is in with that I just like more than Ohio State. Notre Dame's one of those teams. Texas, Florida State have just proven more this season so far. Ohio State, I think this is their first big test. If you beat them handily at Notre Dame would be a big statement win, and we'll see if they can do that this week. California at Washington. I love the over in this. Now, it's one of those that Washington probably will demolish Cal, and we'll have to see if Cal can make up their, part of this points total. But this really came down to me thinking, if I think one of the teams can score the total on their own, I have to believe that Cal can at least score a little bit. And I think that can happen here. Washington, like I said, demolished Michigan State. They've been on a roll lately. Their offense is electric. I think they can score 63 points on their own. But if they score, 50 points, and then we get 11 points from Cal, I think that's enough. I mean, it is enough, but I think Cal can do that. Next game, Ole Miss at Alabama. This is a big one. I like Ole Miss +7 here, and I'll tell you why. Something about Saban's old assistants, I think there was a stigma around them, and then Kirby Smart finally broke through. Jimbo broke through. A number of players broke through. Steve Sarkisian this year. I think there's a good chance that this happens once again on Saturday. Like I said, I don't believe in Jalen Milroe. I think the Mississippi defense is better than it has been the past couple of years under Kiffin. And I think Jackson Dart's matured. I think Jackson Dart actually does look like a better player this year, like more decision-making, process is just sharper for Dart than it was last year. He was very scary last season, so I think he'll be better this time around. And I'm just going to ride with Ole Miss. This is a purely gut feeling. I don't love it, but I don't hate this pick. Then we have North Carolina at Pittsburgh. I have UNC -7.5 here. This kind of goes back to me thinking Pittsburgh is pretty bad. I'm not a fan of Pittsburgh. I don't think that they're, super uber talented or anything. I have faith in UNC to kind of get on this roll that I think we've been waiting for because they proved it last week against Minnesota. Georgia Southern -6.5 against Ball State. Just saw Ball State. Quarterback situation is not great for Ball State. And Georgia Southern played well against Wisconsin last week. I think they can be a good contender in the Sun Belt. I think Clay Helton has those boys playing well. And, I just like them to get this win here. Then last but not least, San Diego State's +7 now. I had it +6.5. That's better for me. Against Boise State. And it's one of those, Boise State's a good team, but I think San Diego State also has, the talent to keep up with Boise just because, I saw them compete well against Oregon State. Oregon State had that game, handled pretty well, so it wasn't one of those, maybe that they come up with an upset here, but I think they can cover 6.5 at least. I think they can lose by a field goal or a touchdown. If that gives me a push, then that's fine. But either way, San Diego State I think is better than people probably realize, and I like them to at least cover the spread there. So those are my picks of the week. I'm sure there's some other games I'm missing. I'm forgetting about. Penn State plays Iowa. That'll be a big game. Big test for Penn State, I think, who didn't have a great game against Illinois, but still won handily, But, either way, that's that. So, closing out the show here, we'll talk some NFL. We'll get out of here. Head on to a good football weekend. Good vibes only. Make sure to check out LK League Notes. We're 1-1 in the LK Bet of the Week, by the way. Shout out to Sean McVay kicking the field goal, although we were comfortably over that by then. So, either way, let's head into it. Thursday Night Football, kind of a snooze fest if I'm being honest here. New York at San Francisco. Saquon Barkley's out. The Giants were frankly getting the crap kicked out of them by the Cardinals. So I think we can put 2 and 2 together here and say that San Francisco should handle business here. 10.5 is a huge number, but like I said, with Saquon hurt, I don't know how much you can trust the Giants. Their wide receiver core is just not good right now. Jalen Hyatt had some flashes, but he's not ready. He's just still a rookie. So San Francisco, I think, will handle business pretty well there. And Brandon Ayuk is questionable. I don't think Brandon Ayuk should play because, like I said, San Francisco has all the weapons. They don't need to risk an early game here against the Giants. Colts at Baltimore. Still got to wait on to see, the status of Tony Rich and Anthony Richardson, who had an electric start to last week's game. Just couldn't really, stay on the field there with concussion protocol. Baltimore also had a big win against the Bengals. I'll let you in on a secret. This might be the LK Bet of the Week. I'll let you figure out which you think it is here. Indy's +7.5. That means Baltimore's -7.5. The over/under is 45.5. So play the game in your brains. Try and figure out what bet I chose here. I like the Ravens. On to Tennessee at Cleveland. Cleveland dropping a very disappointing game where they should have won against the Steelers. Lost Nick Chubb for the year. That sucks. And Tennessee's coming off a big win. Tennessee kind of does that where, team where you think they're going to lose, like to the Chargers, for example, and end up winning because they're just coached better. I think there's a good possibility that happens again on Sunday. Mike Vrabel will be ready for Cleveland, I believe, Deshaun Watson especially, and I'm curious to see how that ends. Atlanta at Detroit. Atlanta's +3 here. I mentioned this one LK League Nuts. I think it is a good litmus test for both teams, kind of seeing where they stack up. If this is an even game, I think that's a great sign for both Falcons and Lions fans. Because, maybe not Lions fans, but I think for Falcons fans, if they keep this close, I think that's a really good, hey, Falcons might actually be a good team. They might be, not a Super Bowl contender, but just a good team. The Lions, I think they're a little bit banged up, so it's also can you survive these injuries? I think you'll see a good, healthy dosage of Mark Gibbs, especially if Amon-Ra is out. David Montgomery's already ruled out, or he's questionable, probably going to be ruled out. So that'll be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to that one. New Orleans at Green Bay. I feel like New Orleans has had the easiest start to the season with Tennessee at home. Then a bad Carolina team, and then Green Bay, who's also not great, but not bad. Green Bay's just, I feel like dealing with some injury stuff. It's tough, but, they lost a game they should have won last week. Jordan Love played well against, I think, probably the best defense he'll face so far. So I'll be curious to see that one. Houston at Jacksonville. This is Houston. Every game for Houston is just, can CJ Stroud look competent? Can CJ Stroud look like he's promising? He looked great last week. A really impressive game. No interceptions. I always look for the interception number when it comes to rookie quarterbacks because I feel like one is okay, but then if you get multiple interceptions or multiple turnovers in general, just I think that's early view on whether your guy's a bust. CJ Stroud has been pretty clean on that front, so we'll be curious to watch this game for that reason, see if he's still doing good. Jaguars got to win this one convincingly, I think, to really prove to the public that you're a good team. Tough game against the Chiefs on Sunday for them. Their defense played really well, though, so we'll see how that goes. Denver, talked about them at Miami. This is where I'm saying it's like that 0-2 start. You drop a game you should have won against the Raiders and the Commanders, and now you have to go to Miami, who's rolling right now, 2-0. It's a bad sign for the Broncos, and I can't imagine it'll be a good game for them on Sunday. Chargers at Minnesota. Two teams that definitely should have at least one win on the record. Sitting at 0-2, going to 0-3 kind of feels like a death sentence here. We'll see what happens here, but I also have this on LK League Notes. Check that out. Then we go to New England at New York. Can Zach Wilson defeat the Patriots Demons? We'll find out. Buffalo at Washington. Curious to see how Washington does here. First, I think big test for them. At home against the Bills team that's pretty sloppy. Your defense didn't play great, but could rebound if Josh Allen throws the ball willy-nilly, and Sam Howell against that defense should be entertaining. Carolina at Seattle seems like a really, really rough spot for Bryce Young to travel west to the West Coast on a short week and play a Seattle team that just kind of maybe got their swagger back against Detroit in an overtime win. Then we have Dallas at Arizona. Plus 12 seems very generous to the Cardinals. Shout out to them. Chicago at Kansas City at plus 12.5 to the Bears seems very generous. Bears have been unraveling in week 2. It's week 3. Week 3 and the Bears are already unraveling. The defensive coordinator out, just very mysterious circumstances, and Justin Fields is calling out the coaching for trying to figure out a way to scheme him better. But either way, rough times in Chicagoland. And then we go Sunday Night Football. We got Pittsburgh at Las Vegas. Pittsburgh offense looks very anemic in a year that I thought they should make a significant leap. They have not done that at all. Defense is still excellent. TJ Watt is a monster. And then Vegas, I think, looks better than what I thought they were going to be. Jimmy Garoppolo is proving to be a competent starter. Just middle of the road, fine player. We'll see how this game turns out. I'm curious to see how Kenny does against a defense that should be lackluster. So then we go to Monday Night Football. We got another doubleheader for Monday night. I don't think this is the norm, but we have another one. So cool. Eagles at Tampa Bay. This will be super big test for Tampa Bay. 2-0 already. Baker Mayfield looks great. Defense is flying around. Philadelphia, they just had a big game on the run, running the ball against the Vikings. So a little bit of curiosity here to see, can Philadelphia destroy Baker Mayfield's confidence and what the Buccaneers have going, or will this underdog story keep on chugging along? I'm very curious to see this one. And then LA Rams at Cincinnati Bengals. I mentioned this one in LK League Notes on Friday. Shout out LKSportsTalk.com. And I'm curious to see how Joe Burrow does if he does play. Calf injury seems to be flaring up again. Maybe they should have held him out a couple weeks because, it looks bad right now. And I don't think if the Bengals lost the 2 games that they did, but didn't have Joe Burrow in either of them, I think we'd look at the Cincinnati team still in a favorable light, still in a okay, hey, you guys don't have Joe Burrow yet because he's still healing. You guys will be fine. You'll pick it up on offense. But with Joe Burrow at the helm, just not looking great. Jamar Chase hasn't done much. I can't really you can't really defend them. It's really just hard. And this is an LA Rams team that I think it's better than what I gave credit for. Their offense is at least talented. Their defense might be a good spot for Cincinnati to have a bounce back spot, but the LA Rams offense is pretty good right now with Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell and Kyron Williams. 3 guys just popping up out of nowhere that Sean McVay turns into quality players. It's good coaching, what can I say? But that'll do it on the NFL front. That'll do it for NFL Week 3. That'll do it for me, Lucas Kochevar, your host. As always, make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Share with your friends, family, all that fun stuff. So until next time, goodbye.